Hello and welcome to Tools to Create a Better Life with myself, Glenyce Hughes. Thank you so much for being here. I am so incredibly grateful for each and every one of you. Oh my goodness. So, how is money created? Yeah. I have been reading through the book from Gary and Dane with Access Consciousness, Beyond the Utopian Ideal. And there's a little section that I actually want to read to you here because it really piqued my interest. It says, money is created by request, not by work. You don't have to work harder in order to create more money. You simply have to request more money in order to have more money. Yeah, so everything that just brought up, will you just run and create it all times a godzillion? Right, wrong, good, battle, nine, podpoc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, if that sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, it is the Access Consciousness clearing statement. And so what occurs when I say a question or talk about something that has a lot of energy on it, when we run that clearing, what it does is it works like a magic wand and just starts to clear and dissipate the energy. So yeah, it creates space, which means then you will have more awareness, which means then you will have more choice available. So how does it get any better? So Gary goes on to say here, you could ask, how can I earn 10 times this amount of money? So let's say you have an amount of money you're earning right now. How could I earn 10 times this amount of money? And if you wanted, it could be doing something different if you are looking to change that and not working so hard. So you can basically just start asking for money. Now, I'm not going to stop the show now because there's so much more to say. Now, yes, of course, the request. Money is created by request, not work. Absolutely. And there is likely action to take. So this is where I think people get it. No, I'm going to speak for myself. This is where I would utilize some information like this against me, because I would go, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to request money every day for 7 days and see what happens, and do nothing. And well, I don't know if I've ever done nothing for 7 days, but you know what I mean. Like I would use it against me. I wouldn't actually look at it as a whole. Yes, requesting it. Yes, just working harder is not going to necessarily bring in more money. And what action is required? What can you be and do different today to actualize the money you're asking for right away? It might actually show up as more work for a little while, and it might not. What Gary is inviting us to here is to go beyond the point of view that money is created from work, which is such a limiting point of view here. And if you start like just looking around in the world, and especially with social media, I would say it's so much more ease now, at the people who don't necessarily work, can't see my other hand, work, the way that we're taught work is, like they maybe don't go to a 9-to-5 job, or however you've decided work is, they don't do it that way. So for some people, there's businesses, food trucks here locally that work from, let's say, May to October and work full on, and then they have the winter off because having a food truck, I mean, there's some places that still do it in the winter here, but not all of them. So there's that. So, growing up, my point of view was you worked Monday to Friday, 9-to-5, pretty much. Now, I also, my background psychiatric nursing, so obviously I was going to be doing some shift work at some point and different things like that. But it's that same idea that you work, 5 usually out of 7 days, and a certain amount of hours. And the other kind of interesting point of view that was put in there for me, or that I chose, I don't mean it was put in there, but that I added, was you're also not supposed to enjoy it. So you spend more of your life at work, something you don't really enjoy doing though. What a bizarre point of view. Anyway, and then when I started my business in 2002, I still kind of held on to some of that, but what I took it into was this point of view that I had to work really hard. So yes, now I could work from home, which is what I loved doing, but it was kind of like I needed to suffer with it in a sense, like it couldn't be really good, it could only be a little bit good. So yeah, I could work from home, I could not have to go in somewhere and fill hours. I always found that so tough when I was working because, probably like you, I'm super fast, and so if you give me 8 hours of tasks to do, I can probably do them in 3, and that's still with, dawdling at times. So filling the hours was really, that was not fun for me. So finally I got, where I didn't have to fill the hours, but I had to work really hard. So I brought that point of view in, and it was just, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how hard I worked. And by hard work, I mean the amount of hours I put into it. And if I wasn't doing it in those hours, let's say we had decided to go shopping for the afternoon or something, then now I had to still be doing it in my head. Like I still had to be working hard in some way, shape, or form. Or if a friend and I got together, then I had to work that evening to make up for the time, say her and I had in the afternoon together, because I still had to work hard. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Like, oh my goodness. And so when Gary talks about here, like hard work isn't the answer, it isn't. It isn't. It wasn't like, when I worked harder, I actualized more money. No, in fact, once I let go of that point of view, once I cleared the point of view that I had to work hard, it was so much more ease to have way more money show up. And, as we talk about all the time, your point of view creates your reality. So as I was being aware of people around me and what other people were choosing, especially really successful people in business, there's a book, it's an older book, I think it's called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And I don't even recall exactly what's in that book. I read it so long ago, but I do remember it being a huge invitation for me to really start looking at, like, do I need to work 60 hours a week? And it probably was that, and some weeks more. And from, again, that point of view that I had to work hard to have money. And it was like I had to justify it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, well I made, more money this month, but man, like I worked harder. Now, it's not that I necessarily tracked my hours. Like I don't remember ever going, oh, I worked 60 hours this week, but it was morning till night. And, again, if I did take some time off, it was still occupying a lot of space in my head. And then really started looking at that point of view that, money, that I have to work hard for money. And then looking at, well, how are other people doing it? And so Tim's book was one huge invitation. And that was probably about 4 or 5 or maybe 6 years after I started my business. I don't recall. And then a few years after that is when I came across the tools from Access Consciousness. So then it was, to me, such a quick way to clear the points of views and to become more and more aware of them, to change them, so that I could look at what does work for me. Like, what does work for me? So when I look now at what I do in my business now, which is, it's kind of tough to say how many hours a day I work in my business, but probably anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day. It really depends. Depends if I'm doing like in-person classes. So if I've pardon me, if I have like an online foundation class, then I'm usually doing 4 hours of those right now, and then maybe I'd have another couple hours of sessions or other things, or creating my radio show or different things, but that now is, that just makes sense to me. It works really well for me. I really enjoy it. Whereas if I look back at 2002 when I started my business, I could not have even allowed myself to easy for me to say, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. consider, that's it, to consider working that few hours. I mean, there's no way that I could have been there. And so that's the other thing that I love about this too, is that it's really a progression. So when I first started, I did mostly in-person sessions. I had to think about that for a minute. In fact, well, when I started, I only did in-person sessions because that's all I was doing at the time. But within a few months, I started facilitating classes. So I was facilitating Reiki classes and angel classes and different things. And so I was adding that. And so mostly I would work, Monday to Friday, doing sessions, and then the weekends was teaching, and then whatever else in there. And I also did it all by myself. And I've actually done a lot of it by myself over the years in business also. But back then, of course, I did it completely by myself. Now, there was a lot less to do. Back in 2002, there was social media wasn't a thing. Advertising was newspaper if I was even going to do it. And so really looking back then to now, what is so ease now, what is so simple now, and finding that place, but also knowing it's going to change. So again, when I started, I was doing one-on-one sessions and facilitating classes and booking my own sessions and all of that. And then got to a point where it was just like, I didn't want to answer my phone anymore. I didn't want to book the appointments. It took up so much time to answer the phone, have the conversation, book the appointment. All of that just seemed too much. So then I did hire a gal to do that. That was her job. She booked appointments and did admin stuff and that. And then, shortly after, well, not shortly after that, I wouldn't say, a little while after that, I realized that one-on-one sessions, doing them as many as I was doing each week, was not fun for me. So I started cutting them down. And I got to the point where I thought, wouldn't it be cool if my business was more facilitating and way less sessions? And it took me choosing doing so many sessions, so many days a week for so long to have the awareness that I desired something else. And so that was about 2013 is when I started shifting that, and my business became mostly about classes, online classes, in-person classes, and then the sessions were sprinkled in and about. And I enjoy doing them way less. I love them now that I'm maybe doing 4 or 5 a week compared to 4 or 5 a day. And so that's really contributed by having the awareness it didn't work, looking at what would, asking for that, taking the action towards that, and looking at then, okay, so, creating that. What does that look like? What do I require to be or do different to actualize that? So we go from, doing it the way we know to going, this just doesn't work for me as much anymore. I don't love it as much, or whatever it is, to go, okay, what would I like it to be like? And this is the piece too that I would say myself and many of the people I've worked with, where they struggle with, because they're so set in the way. And so if we go back to, working hard for money, if we don't change that point of view, then you're never going to create something different with it. Yeah, so, we've got to change the point of views and then look at, okay, so what else? What would we like? What would be fun? Now, I didn't know for sure facilitating classes would be fun for sure. And it required me trying it to go, wow, I do love this. And that was, a big part of it. It's like, oh yeah, this. Okay, more of this, please, universe. So asking, and also then, what's required? What do I require to be and do different to actualize more in online classes? So looking at that. So again, it's not just sitting back and wishing and hoping, much like we were talking about with, creating money through the request of it, just requesting and then sitting back. It's like requesting and then, okay, what can I be and do different? And taking that action, because whatever that is, and it's not linear. So the linear is, if you would like more money, is to work harder. That's the linear, but it's not linear. And like I said, for me, it's been actually actualizing way more money by doing way less, and not way less to doing nothing, because that actually wouldn't be fun for me. So this is also the other piece where the honesty with yourself becomes really important, because I love doing things in the business. I love it. At one point I thought, wouldn't it be cool just to kind of, in a sense, hand the business over to, say, like a business manager and have them set everything up, and I just, wake up in the morning, look at my schedule, oh, I've got a call at this time, a call at this time, and go and do them. That was kind of what I was playing with for a while, and I thought, no, part of what I love about the business is the creativity with it, like being in the creativity with it, communing with it, getting the hit of like, whether it's an online foundation class, whether it's a book club. I've been doing a lot of those this year. We've got a class coming up, depending on when you're listening to this, we've got a class coming up at the beginning of March, the first weekend of March. It's a 2-part online class called The Magic of Being Money, and it's based on the How to Become Money workbook. It's phenomenal, so you'll find a link here to go find more about it. I love facilitating it. I usually facilitate it about 3 times a year, because the more that we can go through that book, the more magic you will create in your life, you're living, and of course with money. But I love that creation of it. I love the ping. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it's like I can be, heck, I was out yesterday in the mall, and I can just see something and go, oh, and then it's like this ping of like that, and then this, and then it's like extrapolate from maybe a poster that I saw in a mall to a new class idea. Like, I love that. So, when I was looking at just kind of handing over my business like that, it was like, actually, that would not be fun. I would probably kill the business, honestly, if I did that. At this point, who knows, maybe one day that'd be something I would like. But at this point, it would be, what I love to do is that, along with other things. The facilitating, of course, is awesome too. I love that. But if I took it away, yeah, so it's really about that honesty with you. So if you're looking at that so like, what can I be and do different to 10 times my income, then look at those things that are fun for you. What do you love doing? And again, don't make it linear. So don't try to figure it out like, oh, okay, I love writing, so I need to write a book. Because that's not it. Just look at it. Maybe you love to watch TV. Put that on that. Maybe you love to go for long walks in the snow or in the sunshine or on the beach, or like, make sure you're adding all of those things in there, because you never know. I mean, there are people who get paid a whole lot of money to make a 60-minute video on a certain makeup product. They are making, I don't even know the numbers, 50,000, 100,000, probably some are making even more just to put on some eyeshadow and say, this is great. So if you love makeup, put that down, but don't conclude it means you have to be an influencer, because it doesn't. Who knows what it will mean? It doesn't matter. But look at those things, and how can I 10 times my income, but not from as an influencer? Now, if you would like to be an influencer with makeup, let's say, and of course I say that because I love makeup, but if that is something you would love to do, you can of course ask for it, like, universe, what else is possible? Show me. Or as you're watching some of the influencers, you could be, universe, I'll have that. Universe, I'll have that in a way that works for me. So you're asking for that, but also then don't limit what's possible with that. Like, don't go, the only way it can show up is as an influencer, because there's so many ways. There's a lot of places now that are doing ambassador programs, meaning that you don't get a $50,000 paycheck to do a 60-minute video, or 60-second video, I mean, but you do get a percentage. And so I'm an ambassador for a couple of things that I haven't done a lot of promoting on yet. I'm going to start in the next little bit. One is for some workout clothes, which I was really excited about being invited to do. And I just actually received them yesterday. So now I can start promoting them. So basically I will share, pictures of me. I will talk about them. And then I will have a link so people, if they go buy them, I would get a percentage of what their order is. And so it's not maybe the same as a $50,000 check after a 60-second video, which, let's just say, a 60-second video never takes 60 seconds. There's a lot of editing and stuff done in them. I'm sure. I actually haven't ever done one that way, but I've done videos. I mean, these ones I just sit down and talk, but if you're doing something for TikTok or Instagram, a lot of times there's other editing in there. Anyway, on and on. You know, but there's ways that you could be it, and what else is possible, and universe, show me. And so when you're requesting money, really, it's not about the conclusion that you do nothing and it shows up because you requested it. It's the request, and then what can I be and do different to actualize it, and clearing points of views that come up, because there might be where you need to do a 20-hour workday. There might be that. Now, if you don't have a point of view about it, what else is possible? But if you notice that you're doing 20-hour work days every day, that's when you want to look at, okay, what point of view do I have holding this in place? Like, what is this? What is this that I'm working harder than I've ever worked before? And especially if it feels like hard work to you, then there's more information. At least that's my take on it. There's more information required. If it seems like you're working harder than you would like, or than that works for you, what else is possible here? Now, sometimes it's adding people. Sometimes you just require to, you know, hire some people to come in and assist you, or barter with people. I mean, whatever works for you, whatever would be fun for you. Maybe you know that there's somebody who loves to have sessions with you, and they're great with graphics. And so maybe you could say, hey, could we barter for, you know, if you do some graphics. And then I always say, be really clear on that. I used to, years and years ago, I used to swap sessions with a local massage therapist, and her sessions were $60 and my sessions were, I think at the time, $250. And so what I finally got to the place of was, it didn't work for me to swap straight across. It just wasn't fun for me, because I could actually, it would work better for me to pay her for a session than for me to take that hour that I could be paid $250. Then, you know, so if your sessions are $250 and the gal does graphics for $20 an hour, what you could do is look at breaking it down, money wise, and keep track of how many hours they work and how, like, the amount. Anyway, that's just my own experience. You might find swapping straight across works for you. Do what works for you, but just make sure it works for you. It took me a while for me to be really honest with me then when it stopped working for me. So just a little advice from my experience. And so, yeah, so when you look at that and you look at creating money, and you've cleared your points of views about you having to work hard, or whatever it might be for you, money's hard, or money's wrong, or whatever crazy points of views you have about money, and then you start requesting it, and then you start being and doing whatever's required for it to show up. Yeah. And how much more fun can you have actualizing money? Yeah. And also, really, I always call it great information. So if you hear yourself talking about money to a friend and you say, oh, money is just so hard and I just have to work hard for money and there's never enough money. And like, if you catch yourself either verbally or in your head saying that, what you want to do is really stop, take a moment, and be present with that and look at that. It's great information. You don't need to go into judgment of you. You don't need to make yourself wrong for saying those things, but you do want to get curious about that. Like, wow, who am I being right now? Like, who is that? A lot of times it's our parents or our caregivers, or maybe a spouse if we spent a lot of years with them. Like, we're taking on somebody else's point of view about it. And it's not even ours. It's not even ours. Our reality is that money is ease and joy and glory, and money and wealth and cash show up the moment we request it, and that we get paid to have fun, and like all of that stuff that just feels really delicious and expansive. That's what's true for us. But what's happened is we've we've taken other people's insanity as we've carried on. And we didn't want to make them feel bad. And not that it was probably ever even a cognitive thought, but if you had parents who believed that money was hard, then you having ease with money would show them that they are wrong. And so most of us don't ever want anybody to know that they're wrong or to think that they're wrong, because we've spent so much of our life feeling wrong. So we go into this, oh no, we can't, like, we need to make sure they're right. So we end up proving them right. We prove their insanity right so they feel better, but do they? Yeah, and again, that's usually not cognitive. That's usually just this really bizarre energy going on in the background of our job is to make other people comfortable. Would you fire your ass from that right now? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Because that isn't actually even your job. You have no job there. That is not your job. Your job is, I don't even know. I was going to say your job is really to live your life, to create and actualize everything that lights you up. I don't, yeah. So even considering somebody else's comfort level with what you're choosing is a bastardization of your potency. Whew. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyond. So truly, what else is possible that we've never even considered? And everywhere you haven't been willing to be aware of your money points of views, to clear your money points of views, and to request money to come in with total ease and joy and glory, money, wealth, and cash. Well, you just start and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POD POC, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And so if you join us for the magic of being money, and I know I think I've done radio shows and videos on it too, I can explain why I often will refer to money, wealth, and cash, not just money. Yeah, because it was the How to Become Money workbook that really contributed to me seeing money for what it was, which is not just cash. I used to think it was just cash. So there we go. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm so incredibly grateful for each and every one of you. Have a fabulous rest of your day, and I look forward to chatting again next week.